Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to another one of our influencer series events. And today we have an amazing show for you, an amazing event with Joe Thomas as our main guest of honor. And Joe wants everybody to rethink everything they know about sales communication. And we are going to talk a lot about that with Joe. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, and Joe is the founding partner of a company called Impact Advantage, and he's developed a process and a methodology called high focus communication, which we are going to talk about at length. And we are going to talk about how we've developed an insight, an AI solution that helps people use Joe's amazing methodology in their everyday meetings and to improve their leadership and their sales teams. I'd also like to introduce Clint Carlos. Clint is the co-founder of Soar AI and also has a background working very closely with Joe as we developed his partnership. Clint, hello and welcome.
Great
And
to be here. Thanks, Thomas.
and I think what we'd want to do, at least a little bit initially, is to talk a little bit about high focus communication. Joe, what does that mean? And how is it that you want everybody to rethink communication?
Well, in a nutshell, we've all been trained in promotion, and we go out there and we talk about our favorite topic, us. And the problem with that is we sound just like every other seller on the planet. So when asked a simple question, why should I choose you? If a buyer says that to us as sellers, we say, well, let me tell you why. I've been in business for umpteen years. My team is second to none. We've got the best warranty in the business. Let me tell you about our products. Our products are the best. They deliver. And all of this language is what I call low focus. It's all about the seller. And we get through our quick spiel, and the buyer nods their head politely, and then they go and talk to the next vendor and hear the same thing. And because every vendor sounds so similar, the big differentiator becomes price. And when price is a differentiator and they choose the low price, that's not in their best interest almost always. And yet, it's probably the most common choice factor that drives sales. So, people that learn to speak in high focus, which is not buyer referenced, it's not, excuse me, not seller referenced, but rather it's buyer referenced. What they find is that the buyer recognizes value in greater volume and they recognize it faster. Sales go up immediately. And I mean immediately. And on top of that, margins go up. Discounts are asked for less and they don't have to negotiate near as much. And so people that have adopted this have seen results immediately. I mean, Clint is one of them actually. And there's numerous stories as well. Clint, do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, happy to. When we first met Joe a handful of years ago, right? This is before I think two pivots at SOAR. We had an outreach prospecting cadence on LinkedIn that we were trying to reach a certain audience, and I felt pretty good that we were getting about a 6% response rate on those LinkedIn message outreaches. And then, of course, we brought Joe in and we realized pretty quickly, hey, our messaging is terrible. It's all focused on us. It's all about us. Let's rewrite this. So with Joe's help, we rewrote that initial message and it became all about the recipient. So what did those people care about? What did they want? What's their motive for wanting to respond to us? When we made that fine tuning adjustment overnight, the response rate jumped to 40%. So I was sold on the concept right away. We brought Joe in after that to train the rest of our team, train a bunch of our partners. And it's funny because at first you hear this and Joe, just listening to you now, it's like, well, duh, obviously people want you should talk about the customer or the recipient of the message and focus on their needs and their motives. But why don't people do it more, Joe? Why do you've been observing this for forever and you've trained thousands of people on this nuanced language. Why doesn't it come naturally?
The reason, simply put, people just don't know. They've never heard it before. They've never thought about it. And what they've been trained to do, and we're immersed in a sea of low focus language. Every ad, it's like 95+% are low focus. So this is what we hear over and over and over again. And so we mimic what's around us and we sound just like that. And we, that's what comes out of our mouth. We sound like the fifth little piggy talking all about us, all about us. And if you don't know, you can't hear it. That's the other thing that's shocking. So, a story I love to tell. My son worked for a company, uh, prominent company. It's about 22 years old, doing very well. Software company. They have three offerings. They specialize in one niche. And my son, he'd only been there a few weeks, and he sold all three products to a single buyer. And the owner of the company looked at him and said, "Dude, we've never done that in the history of the company. Well, way to go." The next week he did it again. And now the boss is like, "This isn't a fluke. What's going on here?" And so he pulled the audio recordings, listened to it, and he came back to my son and said, "These scripts are phenomenal. These are really, really good. I'm going to get these transcribed and I'm going to give everybody a copy." So on Monday, this guy had paid to have them transcribed. On Monday, he came in and he said, "I spent the weekend with these scripts." And he gave my son a copy. And he said, "And I've edited them to make them better." Now think about that. For 22 years, he's never been able to do what my son did twice. And he edited the script. Take a guess what he edited. He literally removed all of the high focus and reverted the entire thing back to low focus. Gave it out to the team. Little to no response. They just didn't get any traction. Shortly after my son had been there just maybe 6 or 8 weeks, he single-handedly brought in more initial revenue than the entire rest of the team. And let me tell you how they measure initial revenue. Initial revenue was the very first engagement with them, how much is attached to the ticket. And about 90% of their sellers gave away the first month of software. Why did they give it away? Well, because they're not professional sellers. They've never been trained. And it's the easiest path. So, "Oh no, we'll give you a free demo." And people would take the free demo. They wouldn't really engage. They didn't learn how to do it. My son was selling the full year package. I mean, the full year. So he was getting a $700 fee out of people, and single-handedly beat the entire rest of the team, which most of them were just giving stuff away. But his revenue was off the charts. Why did he get the $700? Because the buyer recognized this is worth a multiple of $700. And boom, that's what it is. So once you understand high focus language, you suddenly recognize that what's coming out of your mouth could be improved. And that's the first aha. The second thing is going to feel really weird because you got to rewrite that stuff. So we probably should get in to show these folks what high focus is and how to do it. So
Yeah.
anyway, um,
Joe, there's
and go ahead.
well, yeah, as someone who's been a student of high focus sales persuasion communication and been through your training a number of times and been using the software that these guests are going to see here in a minute, there's two elements that I as I kind of think about high focus that really appeal to me. The first is you've got this underlying psychology, right? Of like, why does this work, right? Well, people care about, what they care about as part of it. The other thing that really appeals to me is, um, you know, it really places your care and concern as a sales professional on the needs of the buyer, right? And so often I think people lose sight of the value transaction in sales, right? It becomes I'm trying to meet my quota, I'm trying to sell and generate revenue rather than I'm trying to solve a challenge or a need that you have, right? And help you in an authentic way. And so many of the sales training programs out there to me oftentimes feel like manipulation or they're tricks to get people to do something that's against their best interest. So maybe you could just touch on those points and what's so unique about high focus in those two areas.
So, the solution piece, virtually every seller out there is trained heavily on solution, and it's often a product or service. But we're out there. The challenge, this languaging, you just have to begin to see it. So one thing I put a statement, a button on the board that says, we focus on our customers. And I ask the audience, can you say this with confidence? If you want to make it personal, I focus on the customer. Can you say that? And those that are, the participants in here, ask yourself the question, can you say that with great confidence? I am customer focused. If it's a team, we are customer focused. Do you believe it, and are you? And if your answer is yes, then I'm going to throw a challenge to you. Look at the sentence. If I make this statement, I am customer focused, who am I talking about? Me.
I.
Who's the
Yeah.
hero of the sentence? Me. Who's praiseworthy? Me. Who's the smart guy? Me. Customer is the last thing mentioned. And what's a customer, by the way? Is that how they refer to themselves? Probably not. Customer is a possession of a seller. So that whole sentence, I'm customer focused, is complete irony because it proves you're not. Your focus genuinely needs to be on that buyer. And if you say, but I try and help them, once again, you're talking about you. If you're talking about the customer, customers have options. Customers find solutions. Customers are able to engage and leverage the tools. They would be the start of the sentence, but I wouldn't use the word customer in there. I'd make it even higher focus, and it would be engineers, it would be decision makers, it would be leaders, it would be moms, dads, whoever it is that buys your product. Eliminate the word customer, get rid of it. Use the term that they would use. So, like if you're here as a customer learning, sales, let's not call you that. Sales professionals. That's who you are. So that's one of the challenges that we face. And just hearing the language and then adapting. But there's so much more
Mhm.
because just about every seller out there walks into this idea of selling with solution. They're there to fix a problem. And that is the bulk. It's 70 to 80% of all sales conversations. 20 to 30% of sales conversations focus more on a goal, attaining something. So it's either pain, 70 to 80%, or gain, 20 to 30%, and very little in the other areas. But the interesting thing about it, when you really begin to understand the buyer and you really walk in their world, suddenly it opens up and there are eight primary buying motives, not two, not one, eight. And if you can guide that conversation, the buyer will recognize value they didn't know existed. And the minute they recognize that value, the sell becomes a whole lot easier because it's not us selling, guys. It's them buying.
Mhm.
And I can prove this to you. It's real simple. Think about a product or service, something you bought in the last year that you're really thrilled with, you're happy with. And if I ask you, how did that sale come about? Would your answer be, well, it started with their marketing campaign. I was targeted. They then qualified me. Uh, they closed the deal, and I'm now being managed. No one would say that. What you would say is, I saw it. I liked it. I was interested in this. I researched it. I found what would serve me best. I sought out a vendor, a supplier, I haggled a heck of a deal, and I bought it. The whole story would be about you. You would be the hero buying this product, and rightfully so. And if you let go of the need to sell and you make the primary focus that they are enabled to buy, that they understand, sales just go up. Another simple question to ask, if the buyers that you deal with, if they understood the product or service, even close to the degree which you understood it, would your sales go up, down, or stay the same? And virtually every professional selling group that I talk to says, no, if the clients understood, if they got it, our sales would definitely go up. That says there's a communication gap. If the buyer just understood and people scratch their, well, I don't know why they don't understand. I tell them everything about us. Well, that's the least interesting thing. What the buyer wants to know is about them. If I say, why should I choose you? You would hear the question, why you? That's not the question. You hear that because you've been trained just through serendipity. just status quo. Everybody else does it. The real question is, why should I choose? Why should I choose? So if I say to a sales professional, a sales trainer, why should I choose you? Well, because I've been training for years and, I'm very effective at this and guarantee the work. Yeah. So what? Why should I choose you? You choose me if you recognize that the value far exceeded the investment. You choose me if you recognize that your success rate would go up. Does that seem fair? Like the language is all about you. So you take all these self references I, me, our, us, all of them, and throw them away and replace them with you and your, you and your. So instead of saying, we have a great team, no, you have a team you can access. You have answers at your fingertips, you and your, you and your. Got it? And you begin to change your language. And this is just the surface. There's so much more. As you get this you and your becoming part of your language, you add they and their. Who's they and their? They and their is the buyer's buyer. It's the buyer's customer. Who do they serve? So if I were selling a minivan and I were selling it to Thomas over here, I could say, Thomas, you mentioned that, affordability and reliability is important. You're going to love this vehicle because ABC. Your children, however, they are going to love the video player in the back. And you're going to love the headsets, and they are too, because you and mom can be in the front having a great conversation, and they can be in the back in their own little world. And to hear the you and your, they and their. So this helps to paint a picture that's all about the buyer. Like you become the narrator, their brain automatically illustrates it. And if you're narrating a story that's all about you, the pictures they're painting are not all that interesting. If you're narrating a story that's all about them, the pictures that they illustrate in their brain become wildly interesting to them because it's all about them. And that's our most favored topic. All of us. It's just human nature. So upping your language makes a difference. I mean, it changes the game. And look, I'll show you a little image. I could do this on PowerPoint, but I'll just do it with a card. So this is the idea of high focus. It's about the buyer. More importantly, what the buyer buys, and most importantly, what the buyer buys for. It's the motive. Okay. Instead of and what we sell for. So it's not about us. It's about the buyer. And the goal is to raise the communication and to hit these motives, which are represented by what we call sales stars. Um, there's 8 primary motives, and that's what we've got to guide the conversation to. And suddenly you've got buyers that are seeing value that they'd never even dreamt of. They're like, oh, wow, yes, I need to do that. And it just makes the sale a whole heck of a lot easier. So,
Joe,
um,
as people start to learn this, right, and they say, "Oh my gosh, I'm using all this." I'm saying I, me, we, our half the time, right? And I'm talking about my products, my company, my history, my service. Suddenly it's almost like there's a void. Like, what do they
yeah,
replace that with, right? And so you
yeah,
teach a concept that I love. It's called credible voice, right? So tell us
absolutely.
tell us how you can pivot from self-referential, low-focus communication that's all about me and replace that void in my mind as a salesperson with credible voice.
So, credible voice, it's a simple concept. If the idea is this, you have your voice, your own, and there's the buyer's voice, their own, and there's a whole bunch of other voices in between. And you can use any one of them. You choose the goal is to choose the most credible voice as measured by the buyer. So, who would the buyer find more credible? Their own voice or yours? Well, of course, it's going to be theirs. How about their peers or yours? Yeah, their peers are going to win. Their best friend or yours? Their best friend. Their boss or yours? Their boss is going to win. And there are hundreds of these voices that they would deem more credible. So instead of saying, oh, we've got an incredible service record and we have this great product, you shift that into a more credible voice and you say, your peers, other engineers in this space, or other professionals, whatever the title is that they are, you use. So other engineers have found this product to be very helpful, and they love it because they were able to achieve X, Y, and Z. And then we ask, do you think your outcome would be similar? Now look at the picture that the buyer is now illustrating in their head. You walk through this narration, they're hearing a story about their peers, and their peers are talking and saying, hey, this was successful. We achieved the following, and here's the reasons we achieved that. And then the question is, do you think your results would be similar? Well, yeah, they're my peers. I do what they do. And so this credible voice just, it changes the game. I'll give you another simplistic example of this. We've all walked into a restaurant and ask a question like this. So, what's good here? It's a bad question, first of all, because how could the waiter or waitress answer what's good for us? We all have our own unique thing. And many waiters and waitresses will say something like this: oh, I love the chicken. It is delicious. Well, if you're not in the mood for chicken that night, now it's awkward because you asked for a recommendation, they gave you one with enthusiasm, and you're going to choose the salmon, because you're not in the mood for chicken. A better question would be, what's most popular here? The answer is what's more important than this whole thing. If the waiter or waitress would say, well, I can tell you this, most diners choose the chicken. It's the most popular dish and they love it. Now, if you're not in the mood for chicken tonight, the meatloaf is fantastic and the salmon is also popular. Do any of those seem of interest, or do any of those appeal to you? So, look, they used a credible voice, other diners, and then end with inquiry. So, this ending with inquiry is another tool called A2I2. What it means is answer appropriately, AA, inquire immediately, II. And the reason we do this is in sales, if you'll master that one little tool, literally A2I2. And the idea is answer appropriately, inquire immediately. Sometimes we advise appropriately, inquire immediately. The goal is to guide the communication in such a way that the buyer discovers greater value. You guide them to think differently about it. Oftentimes, I've been involved with a lot of technical sales and software sales, and you'll watch the buyer who's internal in IT, and the number one focus is just, saving their team that's so overworked. And so, yeah, this is going to correct a bunch of this stuff. It's going to lighten our workload, and they're excited about that. And you ask a question. So, with this software in place and functioning as desired, let me ask you, how does this show up for your ultimate customers, the people that come to your company? Now, usually the IT department's not responsible for that. That's sales. That's someone else. But you ask the question, does this software actually show up? And they go, well, I mean, yeah, because it'll be on the customer will interface with this. And will they see a difference? Uh, that is them thinking. It's called a drop in fluency. And this mental drop is where they're scanning their brain going, well, I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it'll be faster for them. So look, if your customers, the people that buy from you, if their experience is smoother and faster, will sales go up? And you see the IT guy break eye contact with you, another drop in fluency, as they discover this not only serves the IT department and my guys, it's going to serve the customer and sales are going to go up. Now, right there, that buyer's discovered a way to get more budget if needed, which is to go back to their boss and say, by the way, a rough analysis suggests that our sales might go up 6 to 8% just from the fact that people can order easier and it's faster. Now, of course, I'm making this story up, but there are real examples just like this where the buyers discovered something they hadn't thought of. And it just makes that sale so much easier because value's there. And by the way, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more. Your ability to guide the communication using high focus language makes it highly interesting to them. And when they hear this story where they're the hero of the story, they get excited. And when they get excited, they want to buy. Your job is don't let them try to buy prematurely. They must be ready to buy. They must earn the right to buy. And you must earn the right to sell. So you've got to work on that and guide that communication in such a way that it's built. So,
Joe, before we get into the technology, I want to just ask you about two concepts that are going to show up here so that people have, I think, a foundation. Um, two ways, obviously, that salespeople communicate most frequently is orally in live exchanges like this, conversations, and secondarily through our writing. So when we're sending LinkedIn messages or emails, responding or prospecting. And so you're going to see
Text.
that in the technology, right? Two of the things that you teach when it comes to persuasive email writing, one of them is the concept of a boost, and the other one is some clarity around this concept of a call to action, CTA, right? A lot of people talk about CTAs. How are those effective in sales communication? But just give us the kind of 101 super quick version of what a boost is and what the basics are for people to think about in terms of CTAs.
So we've just discussed credible voice, and that's a very powerful tool to be used in writing. A boost is something that's injected into communication, and it has two requirements. It must be high focus, and it must be sincere. It's got to be genuine, folks. Look, nothing, and I mean nothing, sells like the truth. You don't need any manipulative, tricky, sales technique. That's all baloney. Honest, good, solid communication is the ultimate sales tool. It is the ultimate. All of us have sellers in our life that we buy from again and again and again because we trust them and they are incredibly helpful to us. So, using these tools, always be sincere, always be honest. The idea of a boost is something it's relatively simple, but it elevates communication. A compliment is a boost. Agreement is a boost. Accurate understanding is a boost. An apology would be a boost. There's all kinds of little things you can do that is to elevate communication. Oftentimes, emails are written, there's a salutation, dear Susan. And then I'm writing you because that's a bad start. A boost would really enhance the transition from the salutation to the body of the email. A boost could be, your article on LinkedIn was fantastic. Something that's nice. uh, these little things in communication are just underutilized. And we list in the uh, materials about a dozen boosts that are safe. Look, the expression of intent is a boost. Expression of understanding. This thing's called Blue Pill. That's the only one with a nickname. I'll explain in just a second. Reciprocation's a boost. Someone says, what do you think about this, latest trend of AI? And you answer, and then you reciprocate. What are your thoughts about it? And people bring up topics not just to learn about them, but because they want to talk about them. And so this is A2I2 reciprocation. Um, but agreement is a boost. A compliment's a boost. And anyway, there's many more of these. They're pretty simple to do, but they're underutilized. So you put those in an email, and the idea is that a person reads a nice email. It sounds nice, it reads nice, but it's written about them because it's got all these yous and yours in there. And then there's a simple call to action, simple invitation to do something, to say something, to decide something, to accept something. And it's just a simple process of steps. So putting this in email is a game changer. And this Soar example is one. There are numerous examples. Microsoft Group changing their multiple thousands of emails going out every month. Their appointment rate jumped 13 times what it was the previous month. And they literally did not have enough staff to handle the sales volume. And to the owner's credit, he pulled a big gob of money out of his pocket and went and recruited his competition. He was also the fastest growing person in the Microsoft network, fastest growing company that year and the next 3 years. So, yeah, there's something magic about it. But great company with great product and value, for their buyers. The buyers recognized it and multiple prior to this. So,
Joe, you let's talk a little bit about how, we went as and ended up partnering together in building this AI, right? You've had a successful training business. You're kind of a solopreneur, right? You've trained, I don't know, what do you say, tens of thousands of sales professionals over the last, I don't know how
yes.
many years you've been doing this, Joe, but you get requests all the time. Can you come in and write our emails? Can you coach my team? Can you listen to our calls? Uh, Talk to us about the challenge of trying to scale your business outside of just you. I mean, you show up, you train. How has that journey been, and why did you look at building technology as a way to create scale and really grow your business and grow your intellectual property?
It's a great question. Look, the first time when I'm training people in this methodology, and you just knew like this methodology when is very beginning, as I started to train it, people came back with instant success stories. I mean, in the day of the training, people would come up and say, by the way, I just changed my email. I got a reply. I've never got a reply from this guy. And that story was like every class. And I was teaching large groups with hundreds of people. And all these success stories are flooding. And I tell people, put this stuff in your emails. And I gave people a space in the room to work on an email that they were going to utilize. People raise their hand, walk over, and I started writing, helping them get these words. Well, these results were coming faster. What was really happening is they were training me on how to do this, and went to a Fortune 50 company. A gentleman raised his hand and said, "Look, I was given an assignment 8 months ago. 8 months ago, they told me go get that account." And he says, and it's 8 months later, and I haven't even got a reply. I've sent snail mail. I've sent email. I sent a FedEx package. I call them. I leave voicemail. I've actually shown up and tried to get, in through the front door. Nothing works. It's a wall. It's a black hole over there. You just can't get them. Let me see your last email. He pulled it up, and what was it? It was like every other email you get every day. We. I'm just reaching out because I wanted to. This is garbage. This is all about us. So rewrote the email with him, and he gave me permission, and we actually put his email on the board. So we did this as a class, and we changed it from low focus to high focus. Now the first thing we saw is this guy was just grinning from ear to ear because he recognizes this is a significantly better email. And how do you recognize it? You look at it as if you're the recipient, not the author. You have to read that email as if you're the person receiving it. So he's looking at it and he recognizes this is much better. So, okay, let's give it a try. Click send. 8 minutes later, boom, he's got a reply. Not only did he get a reply, the reply accepted an appointment 2 days from then. So this is a Wednesday and the appointment was for Friday. And he goes, I can't believe this. I've never got a reply. Now I've got an appointment with a decision maker. So his drive, which is about 3 hours to this client the next day, he and I were on the phone prepping for that meeting. High focus language, high focus language, high focus, guiding that buyer through their own decision cycle, not a sales cycle, a buyer's decision cycle. And anyway, the rest is history. Tons of business, but those stories are abundant. So I start writing these things manually. Do training with Paul and Clint and this group at Soar. And Paul's like, Joe, are you doing this all manually? I'm like, well, is there another way? Paul's, of course, laughing. He's like, you need machine learning to do this. You need to use some AI. And I said, that would be wonderful. I understood anything about AI. I'm just a user of AI. I don't know that world. Paul said, well, I do. And he goes, I've got a team, and I know Clint and the whole group came together and produced this software, and the users are using it daily. I mean, it's amazing because it's someone looking over your shoulder, helping you write these emails. And I tell you, it's profound to watch the impact because it's not just you have better emails, but this email is a great practice ground for what comes out of your mouth. And so people are getting that. Like in my history as a sales trainer, it's rare that you have an opportunity to turn around a lost sale. And I was in the UK with that same Fortune 50 company, and they got an email and they just lost a $1.2 million sale. And I asked them, why did you lose it? And this story it was bad because they should not have lost this. The buyer was about to make a bad decision that was going to hurt the buyer. And I told them, look, you can't let the buyer hurt themselves. You've got to reach out immediately and stop this sale. They've just awarded it to the competition. And they go, we can't. I mean, it's already done. It's awarded. And no, it's not. It was just awarded minutes ago. You've got to get after this right now. It's not in the buyer's best interest. They're going to hurt themselves, and you know it, and your competition knows it, but you got to fix this. Anyway, they were afraid that a phone call would not be doable. So we sat down and crafted an email. It took about 30 minutes to write this email. It started and it had literally 4 boosts before we got to the body of this. And they were honest. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. Your team did a fantastic job with the spreadsheet. Uh, the pricing you have chosen is exceptional. Who wouldn't want that? And yes, there's some advantages. There were genuine, honest things. And as you read them, you just had the feeling, of course, the buyer's going to read this because it's affirming them and it's honest. It really was just straight up honest. Then there was this sentence that said, I would agree with you, and we agree with the process you arrived at. We'd agree with the final decision if these were the only factors. The greatest fear is that you are going to lose the savings of that great price in a matter of months due to compatibility. I'm not suggesting you take my word for this. I'm suggesting you look at the data. There's 2 case studies on this very topic. Now, that's called a blue pill. A blue pill is from the movie The Matrix. It says you don't have to look. We're not saying change your mind. You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything. You just have to look. Blue pill says you've got a way out of this. There's no pressure here. And it takes that pressure off, which is the design of it. So anyway, they sent that email and he got a reply in the space that he drove from the office that evening to his home. The reply was there when he checked his email at home. This was pre, Wi-Fi everywhere. But he came in the next morning about a half hour late and he had in hand $1.2 million contract. The whole thing's turned around. Now, that's the first time it's ever happened in my life as a trainer. That count is now in the teens. Lost sales being turned around. I don't advocate that you go for that, but sometimes it's right. I just see so many. One of them was a $16 million deal for a Fortune 100 company, 16 million, and they won $8 million the very day we sent the communication out. It generated just this flurry of phone calls, and by the end of the day, they had half of that deal won back. So this stuff works, but you got to pay the price to learn it. And the software is in a phenomenal place to do it. So,
Joe, in your experience, how many repetitions, how many emails, how many practice conversations does it take a sales professional to master high focus communication?
well, to master it takes some time to do it. But here's the cool thing, guys. Even as a new user of high focus, your first email, you'll recognize it's different. And you'll see a response rate. If you do mass emails, you'll immediately see a response. There's been hundreds and hundreds of A/B tests. Now, I typically get to rewrite one of their emails, which I've done manually for years now. I use software. Um, anyway, of all those AP tests, High Focus has won every single one of them, being tested out there in the market. Not a single time has it taken second place. And think about it, the content is the same because the content is gleaned from the original email. And so it's just rewritten, but the response rates, and it's not like, oh, it's this much, it's this much. It's a big difference in response rates. People respond to High Focus because what they're reading about, hearing about, and thinking about is their own success. That's the magic of High Focus. So you pay the price, you start writing an email, day one, you'll see a difference. Literally day one. And the more you do it, the better you get. Now, the software is going to get better and better as more and more users adapt because it's relatively new, but it's pretty good right now. It alerts you to things to think about. You watch the videos, you get better. So how long it take to master it? Number one, you get positive effect immediately. You probably master it over a matter of months if you'll spend one email a day and really give it 10 minutes to really work it. And you start working. So you start on High Focus, and then later you think, okay, I'm going to get better at boosts. And then later you say, I'm going to get more credible voice in there. And then you're going to, okay, I'm going to make sure the call to action is easy and it's doable. And so you work on that. But if you just keep going through those, 4 items, uh, we give participants a card to study, and these 4 elements, high focus, boost, credible voice, call to action. And then, of course, the color code, which you can get inside there, adds a 5th element, which is low focus. It alerts you when you're writing in low focus. And it just tells you, rewrite this, think it through. But if you'll do that one email a day, it not only change your emails, it'll change your vocabulary. You'll start speaking high focus. So I think, yeah, benefit from day one, but mastery, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. If you'll just
It
do
takes
one a day.
repetition. I think the
Yeah.
point is, like anything, you're learning any new skill or any new method, it takes repetition. And that's, I think, really when we started working together, I think the goal of the software was just to give people more practice, more repetition, more feedback. It's like game film for every email, for
Yeah.
every conversation you have. And so
Oh,
just to pull that up here, Joe, your website is highfocus.ai. If folks want to get in touch with you to get some training or to get access to the software, they can reach you at joe@highfocus.ai. Um, and we'll just do a brief demo here for folks to get a sense for how this works. So the first thing you mentioned and talked extensively on is writing effective emails. So just as an illustration, this is a email, I guess a LinkedIn message that someone sent me today. And I'm just going to drop it in here, right? So, Joe, take a look at this email. Is this common of what you see people sending you on LinkedIn, or maybe I'm
all
trying
the time.
to.
I mean, all the
Okay.
time. You just to take a glance. Look, hey, Clint, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well is a boost. I like it. You want to do something that doesn't sound like everybody else's boost, but a boost is a good thing here. But look at this next thing. I'm reaching out to share a newsletter post. All about them. And this, I'm reaching out. Do we even need those words? It's obvious they're reaching out because here they are, having reached out. Duh. But this writer doesn't have confidence in their own messaging, and that's why they've got that forecasting. I'm reaching out to share. I'm explaining because I feel like I need to explain because I really don't have a justifiable reason in my mind to reach out. Their confidence is already got them in trouble. And by the way, we've already deleted. No one reads this email.
Well, to me, as a recipient of this message, I see I'm reaching out, and that is basically code for here comes some spam,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what you hear. And yet we're all guilty of it. I'm sure I've sent plenty of emails to say I'm just reaching out or I'm just sending this. Okay, so what else
Often,
do you see here that stands out? Anything else that stands out, Joe? We don't
um,
have to go in depth. We're gonna have the AI do the grading, but anything just that you would comment on?
yeah. So no sales pitch here. That's not honest. I'm sure this is a sales pitch. Just trying to add more value to some of my connections. So look at that. He steals your thunder as a
Yeah.
recipient because I'm just trying to add more value because it's all about me. Now, he doesn't intend it this way, but this is what is being communicated. As a CMO and consultant, again, me, I'm as a sender. One of the challenges I've seen every year, see, I don't care what you've seen every year as a recipient. I want to know what I see every year and how I can tackle it. I want to solve my own problems. I want to be the hero of my story. So yeah, it's very low focus.
Hmm.
There's a you in there. As you grow, it becomes harder to explain what you do across your site clearly. And maybe, yeah, see, and that's high focus, but it's debatable because what you're saying is, yeah, you're getting better, but you're not talented enough to really maintain that growth. So I don't
Right.
like that. And that's
He's the
why I
hero
wrote
because
this
he's seeing all these challenges and can add value, but I'm struggling over here with getting my team aligned and explaining what happens on my site. It's kind of the message that he's sending, right? So
exactly. And
yeah,
that's why I wrote you to, because I run a team of, see, I'm the hero.
yeah.
We have
Hmm.
many templates to use with clients, bad word, all for free. I hope you
Yeah.
find useful. If not now, then maybe in the future. So if not now that's again, lack of confidence. He's already giving up and saying, I know you're going to reject this. So maybe in
Yeah.
the future, remember me. And of course, first of all, no one
Right.
is ever going to make it this far in this email. They'll never read that last line because it's all about him. And if they do get there, you've just given the recipient permission to forget this. Set it
Right.
aside. Do it later if you don't do it now, which is exactly what my brain's hoping for because I'm busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
And
poorly written email. And this guy could have, we don't know, but he could have some amazing content.
yeah, now this was the call to action, and I skipped a couple links he shared and his name because I'm not trying to,
Yeah, we're not trying
persecute
to
this
trash
guy.
anybody.
But okay, so the way the software works is you put in whatever email. Now let's pretend this is an email you're working on sending, and you're trying to optimize, something on your website or a prospecting message or a reply to someone. best practice is to put your best version in here. And then the first thing you'll want to do is ask the AI to color code your email or mark the high focus. And so, Joe, explain what's happening here when this color coding pops up.
So red means low focus and green means high focus. Blue means boost and gray, credible voice. There are no credible voices in here, which is a glaring mistake. If this guy has templates that work, a credible voice, those that use it have found this would be powerful, but he doesn't have that. And then call to action is purple.
Yep.
So
So if this is your email and you're trying to optimize this, the first place you want to start is okay, get rid of all the red, right? Start
yeah,
by just omitting the red, get rid of your low focus and replace it with green or with gray, which is credible voice, right? And so you're gonna kind of just start to wordsmith your messaging before it goes out. So you're preempting this
yeah.
mistake that this guy said. And so then you just take these one at a time and you just practice. Now we're gonna shortcut that and we're gonna ask the AI to rewrite it. And so here it's working and it's going to explain why it kind of needs to improve the message and so this is telling you why it's why your message could have been better and then here's the alternative that it rewrote. Now Joe, what do you think about this version?
So, okay, first start like the boost. You might find the newsletter post useful for your work. Wow. See, here's the narration. My brain is now illustrating, which you can't stop this. My brain is now illustrating a story. And who's the star of the story? Oh, yeah, it's me. I'm liking this story so far because I'm human. So, it's designed to add value to your efforts without any sales pitch. Now, look, I
Yeah,
like to beat the machine up a little bit. Its design makes the software the hero. That's a
right,
little step down. You could say, we could boost this. We could get your efforts will be scaled and your sales pitch by leveraging this thing.
hmm,
But this is still better than the original.
right,
Uh, as a CMO, now referring to me because I have shared the
right,
same title, you know how challenging it can be. Much better. This reads better. I'm more interested in it. Um, the guide can help you align your team. Now, the guide can help you align. That makes the focus on the guide. And I
right,
would play with that a little bit. But guys, this is why doing some manually, that's the 10 minutes,
right.
work on this will take you to a new level. The software will guide you. This software will get better just over and over. It'll start to be able to do more of these little fine tuning. But this is a much better email.
Yeah,
Uh,
I look at this as a safety net, right? I'm going to make
yeah,
sure that me and my team, we don't send any low focus messages. So every message, when we first started doing this, every message we sent, we just put through the grader and we color coded it, and it was just a standard. So we got made sure that there was no red, right? And that was a
yeah.
nice safety net. But as to your point, Joe, the more you massage this, the more you work on it, the more you practice it, the more opportunity you see to really stand out and differentiate. Part of that comes in doing these basics. The other thing you start to realize pretty quickly is how generic most of your messages are. And so you start to really personalize and do a little bit more in-depth research around the motives of the recipient that you're trying to reach. And that personalization takes us to the next level. And so, anyway, this is the basics on email writing, Joe. You got a whole course on this. I highly recommend if people haven't been through your training, they get in touch with you, invest in that for their teams, and it's a great starting place and it comes bundled with the AI software, so it's really awesome. Now, just to jump, I know we're getting a little short on time here, but there's AI that helps you with your verbal communication. And from first-hand experience, as you learn to master high focus language, you're going to find oral communication to be much more difficult to master because it happens in real time. Writing is asynchronous. You've got time to ponder, pause, rewrite, delete, go back. When you're speaking orally, you just simply don't have that luxury. And so it's much harder. And of course, there's two people involved. So now you're responding to them and they bait you into all these low focus responses. And so it's harder. But just to show you an example of some of the insights that you can get. Here's a recent call that I had, and this whole platform records your calls. It gives you a transcript and some basic communication, feedback, and coaching. But the real magic here is on the insights. And so when you want to enhance your mastery of high focus, you're going to get granular feedback after every conversation on how well you're doing in these 5 areas. How well did you use high focus instead of low focus communication? And so in this case, it's giving me some feedback and coaching and using specific examples of what I said and suggesting an alternative way that I could have said that. So instead of saying this, I should have said done this, right? Now, what it's also doing is Joe's got an online library of video training that goes along with this. It's finding short clips within that content and it's delivering those to me as suggested learning that goes hand in hand with exactly what I did or didn't do on that call. So as you try to master this, you get that daily repetition and feedback, game film on how well you're mastering these concepts, and then you get reminders and micro learning that goes with that to just reinforce that and ingrain that in you, and it becomes part of who you are and the way you communicate. Credible voice. So here's the next area where, what did I do well? Here's an example, and how could I have done that better? And then some training to go with that. Boosts. It looks like I did a little bit better on boosts in this call. Building rapport, expressing appreciation, and again a little bit of a reminder on what boosts are. Now, this might be a 30-minute training video, and it's found 59 seconds the AI has that best aligns to what I need to see to be reminded to improve. And so, if you are trying to master anything, it comes down to feedback and repetition. And so, I think back to learning to hit a baseball or learning to do any variety of things. The more repetitions and feedback you get, the faster your improvement. And so, really, Joe, that's I think the goal. If maybe you'd agree with the whole purpose of the AI is to accelerate learning and mastery, right? So you go from going through Joe's training and learning stuff and being really excited about it to having this daily feedback and repetition to master the concepts more rapidly. A2I2, Joe, you talked about that, right? Answer appropriately, inquire immediately, and looks like I missed several opportunities to do that on this call. And so, you learn and you improve. And so that's really the goal of the way this works. Now, one of the really cool feature, it's not really specific to kind of the high focus AI, but if you're going to be using this platform, part of what you're trying to do is be more customer centric in your thinking, be more think about them, think about their needs. And so you've got the power of AI on top of all of your recorded calls now. And you can ask things like, what are the most common concerns that customers are expressing? And what the AI is going to do is just like GPT, but only limited to the knowledge of what happened on your calls. It's going to answer your question by reviewing your call. So I've got 1,600 in here, so it's going to take a second, but it's going to analyze all my calls and look for things, the customer concerns that they've expressed on conversations. It's going to surface those to me so that I can get better at understanding my customers. Now, if I'm trying to prepare for a specific buyer and understand them, I can ask about that buyer in specific or their needs. I can also ask for examples of where I fell short on high focus, or I became too self-referential, or I wasn't focused enough on the customer, and it'll highlight those examples from my calls and display those for me to kind of go through and dissect and understand better. So people are asking about security. They're asking about how the customization, integration, data accuracy, privacy concerns, right? So this is what's keeping my customers awake at night when it comes to the conversations I'm having. Yours obviously are going to be different, but you have the power of that AI insight on top of your meetings to help you improve your ability to focus on what's important, and that's your buyer and the folks that you're talking to. So anyway, Joe,
So
I don't want to go too deep on this demo, but
let me
anything
say
you,
one thing about
yeah,
this. Look, what Clint's just shown you, guys, this is scratching the surface because you'll have, if you go through some training on this and understand like the 8 lines, um, what's keeping customers up at night, that's one. That's what everybody knows.
right.
But look at the other 8. We didn't go through the whole 8 today, but one
Yeah.
of those additional one is what does your buyer's buyer want? And you can see how often are they referencing that. You can, if you start asking the right questions, this AI can spit back insights that none of your competition will even know the insight could exist. And you just have a competitive edge because you recognize motive that others don't know. And it's powerful. Look, the ability to guide the conversation to these 8, and it's all buyer centric. The ability to guide that, it becomes easier and easier because the language that they are hearing is all about them. And you start to guide in areas that are not common to them, and they suddenly have ahas. When they have an aha because of your effort, because of your inquiry, your credibility goes up and the trust they place in you simultaneously goes up because you're asking great questions. When I go out on live sales calls, I'm typically supposed to just observe. And that's what I'm there for. And occasionally I can't keep my mouth shut because there's something so glaringly positive in front of me that I just interject. And multiple times I've had the buyer turn to me and go, "Oh, thank you. This was really helpful. You're what, the technical guy, the technical expert?" And no, if they got into any technical detail, I'd be in real trouble. But they perceive I have expertise because of my questions, not because of my answers. I don't have any answers. I'm just guiding the buyer to think more clearly in a holistic way of motive. And a couple of questions like that, and it's amazing what happens. And then we leave, and as we're driving back to the office, the guys that I'm training will go, that was amazing. Wow, we need to practice this. And it's just things they hadn't mastered yet. But I'm telling you, there's story after story like that, and it shocks me. People perceive that expertise because it's all about them, and it's just the question. It's not all those answers. These guys have all the answers that I'm with, so I'm in a safe zone there, but it's helping the buyer think differently about what they're about to do. And when they think differently, they see the solution options differently, and you have a much higher probability of being selected as their provider.
Awesome. Joe, this has been great. I always learn something new when we talk, even though we've had many conversations and interaction before. So thanks for sharing. Thomas, anything that you want to touch on
Wow. I
or
mean,
share?
all I've got to say is, well, I can tell you this just from my own personal experience. I've been using the email composer on a regular basis, and it has improved my emails 100%, uh, dramatically. And in fact, I will tell you that I went into it with a bit of skepticism. That is to say, I thought my emails when I was writing back to people were just fine, but they were not. And it's only improved and gotten better. And I can tell you that I'll also be just on the basis of the software and the strength that I've learned from that. I have to improve my scoring with respect to the insights. So I'm going to be signing up with you as well, Joe, to get your actual training because I think that'll only improve it even that much better. So I think it's amazing, and I am nothing but impressed and would recommend it to anybody who wants to really succeed at sales and communication. So thank you so much for your time. And Clint, it was wonderful to have you with your insights, having developed the software solution for Joe, really properly show us the integration of the two and the power of the two when combined. So thank you so much, both of you.
Awesome. Good to be here. Great to see you all, and thanks for the time.
Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Yes,
Thank you
thanks,
again, Joe.
participants, for being on, and hope to hear from you later.
Thank you, Joe.